And we're live.
Cool intro.
Welcome to the SoNo Show, episode 25, Thriving in the Great White North. How you doing tonight, Project Algiz?
Nice, man. I'm doing good. How you doing?
Man, I'm pretty good. God, that's some beautiful scenery back there in the background from where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it'd be a nice spot to sit up.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's outstanding. So you're in a dry. You said you were in a dry riverbed at the moment.
Well, yeah, it's not quite dry. It's a pretty prominent river in this area that flows through, and it's pretty thick. It's just that it's so wide. I mean, I don't know if you could tell on camera, but the tree line way over there, I mean, that's like the other side of it. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm in a dry section over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, can you hear me actually right now? Can you hear me? I might have had myself muted there for a second. Anyone in the chat, can you hear me? Let me know how the sound is, guys. Someone in the chat. Man, I'm a boomer tech here, man. You can't tell.
Shit, man. Me too.
Okay, they say it sounds good. I guess I wasn't muted. I thought I was. That's my bad. But yeah, man, that's quite the scenery back there, dude. I can't get over it, especially all the interesting videos that you've sent me the past year of your travels, of your hunting and fishing trips up there. Yeah, man, it's beautiful. Do you want me to call you Algiz or Project or PA or what would you want me to call you?
No, you can just call me Mike.
Oh, you want me to call you Mike?
Yeah.
How's it going, Mike? Hell
Pretty
yeah.
good,
That's a fine hat you got on there, dude. What kind is that?
Thanks. It's just a crushable wool hat I picked up from Bass Pro Shop. It's a redhead. It's nothing too special. It's nice though. I like it.
Oh hell yeah! I had a pair of
outdoor stuff.
I had a pair of redhead boots there for a few years that I liked them pretty good. I used them to fish in. So if you wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days.
Well, so yeah, I've started a BitChute channel a couple of years ago. I go by the name Project Algiz. That was initially a name I gave to a blog, which was in relation to kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, which is sustenance and living off land, that kind of stuff, and building community and all that. And it was a blog that I wrote like maybe 2 entries in, and then just kind of neglected it and started making videos. And that's the name that I've just stuck with because that's what people knew me as. But I mean, to be honest, I'm thinking of rebranding soon because it's kind of developed into more than just that. So
yeah.
But yeah, man. So a little bit about my background. You know, some people probably know this. You know, I grew up in Southern California. Actually, I grew up in the greater Los Angeles area and moved up here back in 2009 when I was about 20 years old. And I've been here ever since. And it's just been a world of differences, man. But you know, it's taken some acclimation and some getting used to. But I don't think I'll ever go back. You know, after getting used to here.
I don't blame you.
The abundance of things, and just if you're an outdoors person, there's just so much stuff for you to do here that, I mean, you know, I go back home to visit family, and it's just every time I go back, every couple of years, it's just worse and worse. And
man, I bet.
Yeah, I thought it was bad when I left, dude. Holy shit, man! I went back a couple of years ago, and it's just way worse. So, yeah, I'm never going back there ever again.
I don't blame you. Was there a big, I'd say it was a huge shock whenever you moved from Southern California up there. What, did you have any like apprehension or was you unhappy when you first moved there at all?
So I was very interested in moving up here. It was something that was kind of, I wouldn't go as far as to say like a spur of the moment kind of thing, but what had happened was my family, being my parents and my brothers, you know, we were living down there and it was hard to get work. My dad was running a business that went under. I was working for a business that went under, and this was, you know, back in like 2008. And it was, you know, when the economy was really bad back then. A lot of businesses went under. And so, you know, we're looking for work and we can't find anything. And we're looking around and we decided we wanted to move. So we were looking and going, well, where do we want to go? Do we want to go to like maybe Texas or Arizona, or do we want to go to Oregon or Washington? And we ended up talking to a family member about it. he used to be in the Air Force, and he was stationed up here back in the late '90s, early 2000s. And he said, well, why don't you guys check out Alaska? And we just kind of laughed
Yeah.
about it. Being from Southern California, that's just so
Oh,
outlandish
yeah,
to
brother.
us. Like, yeah,
No.
okay, whatever, and then laughed about it. And then my folks got to thinking about it, and they were like, well, it doesn't really sound like that bad of an idea. Let's go check it out. So my folks bought a plane ticket in the spring of 2009, and they came up here and checked it out and spent like a week or two up here. And then they came back and they were like, we like what we see up there. We're going to move up there. And so then began the adventure of getting up here. And I was all for it, man. My brothers were kind of like, fuck that. I don't want to move up there. And, I'm all
Yeah.
about the outdoors, man, even as a kid down there. So to me, it was like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so, then we made the move and we packed up all our belongings we had 2 trucks. None of them had 4-wheel drive or snow tires. And this was this was the beginning of winter. And
Yeah.
we had 2 trailers. We had a really short trailer and a long, I think it was like 18-footer, if I remember right. And we packed all of our belongings into it and drove up the Alcan Highway. So we drove from Southern California to Anchorage, Alaska. And
Oh man.
and
How
then
long did that take?
so we kept running into things. We kept running into problems. We kept running into car problems and other issues. Like we lost a passport along the way, which we ended up finding, but we kept getting
Oh shit.
we left the day before Halloween, and we got here Thanksgiving weekend, and
Oh
it,
man.
it was just an adventure, dude. We just experienced stuff along the way. And
Yeah.
we broke down in Canada. The rear differential on one of the trucks went out, and this was in a place called Fort Nelson. It's in northern British Columbia, and
Yeah.
it was November at that time, so it's freezing cold out. I think it was like negative 13 Fahrenheit or something like that. And we get tools out of the trailer. We get up under the truck and we're trying to pop the case off the rear differential to take a look at it and see what's going on. And we have a little wrench on the bolts, and we go to give it a tap with the hammer, and the fucking wrench just shattered. Like it
It was
doesn't.
that cold. Holy shit,
Yeah,
man.
it was wild, man.
Damn.
So moving up here, it took a little while to get used to. Like the first winter was awesome, dude, because where I'm originally from, we don't really even have winter really.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so we get up here and we're experiencing that, and then after dealing with like the weird shit that happens in the winters, like freezing rain and slick roads and stuff like that, I was just kind of like, yeah, fuck this. And took a couple of years to get really used to it after that. But
Yeah.
once you make the changes, man, I mean, it's amazing what a human can acclimate to.
Oh yeah, man. It's that's quite the story, man. Damn. I'm just curious. What was the coldest you ever seen it in the winter down in Southern California? I've never been out west before, so I'm just curious. How cold
Oh,
does it? Does it even get cold?
so yeah, it can. I mean, it depends where you're at in Southern California. Like if you're on the coast, you're gonna have like more mild weather all around year round. Like in the
Yeah.
summertime, I think it might get up to like 90 in the summer there, and like it might get down to 40 in the summer on the coast. But like if you go inland where we live, like just over the mountains, I mean it could get up to like 115 in the summer and
Oh
down
yeah.
to like 30. I think 30. I'm sure the record low is colder than that, but I recall it getting down to about 30 a couple times when I was a kid there. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it never really snowed unless you were up in the mountains. But yeah, pretty mild weather, man, especially compared to here.
Hell yeah. That's man, I really enjoyed your last video that you made. I guess it's been maybe a month ago now. And you were up on top of that mountain, just talking to the camera. You were talking about how abundant things are up in Alaska. Like when people think of Alaska, like I mean, I was guilty of this misconception. That it's hard to grow things there. That it's hard to it's hard to eke out an existence up there. But from what you told me in that video, it is completely the opposite. It's a land of abundance, it sounds like,
It
even
is.
though it's harsh.
It is. Yeah, it really is. So, um, I mean, yeah, the land is very I guess the word would be arable. You can definitely grow things here. We have farming industry here that, it's not that huge because it only supplies the state. The
Yeah.
state doesn't even have a million people yet. So, I mean, it's not like something you might see
Wow.
out in the Midwest, but like, I mean, people grow stuff here and it grows like, if we're talking gardening and growing produce, I mean, the stuff grows giant, man. Like,
Yeah, I've seen pictures before of
yeah,
giant, like the record pumpkin, and it's
mm,
because you all get so much sunlight during the summer, right? You get
correct.
it's yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's amazing.
in the summertime, like around the solstice around here, and it's more drastic the farther north you go, but around here, in South Central Alaska, you'll get like, I'd say around the solstice, you're going to get about 18, 19 hours of daylight
Damn,
per day. And we're talking like this, like it'll shine like how the sun is right now at like 10 o'clock at night. And
that's
then,
remarkable.
yeah, and for like the 5 hours that it's not, daylight, it's still um, like twilight pretty much. It doesn't get dark, but,
Yeah,
then the winter, it's the opposite too. So
yeah. You have what, about 19 hours of darkness practically during
I
the
would say
winter around the solstice.
solid darkness, probably, yeah, around the winter solstice, yeah, probably about like that. And then the rest is like twilight, and the sun kind of comes up over the horizon, and it kind of comes up and just peaks over and goes right back down.
Wow, yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard people describe it before. It's man, I couldn't imagine it. It's oh, it's remarkable.
It's very
You were
strange. And then
you
in
were also. Oh, go ahead. What was you saying?
in the summertime, the way the sun rises is it'll go kind of around in the sky. It doesn't really go over the
The
globe.
horizon.
Yeah, it just kind of goes around the horizon and overhead, and then it kind of dips below and then pops right back up. It's very strange, man.
Oh man, does it? I can imagine it would fuck with your sleep sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially the first couple of years I was here. You could always get, and I mean, it's pretty much a standard here where people have blinds and drapes on their windows that block out sunlight. But what did it for me, man, trying to get to sleep, would be like at like 2, 3 in the morning, you hear birds outside your window chirping.
Oh man, if you had any roosters, they would be going off.
Yeah, yeah, I got neighbors that have them, and you hear them in the summertime, man. They go off, man, all night long.
Yeah. In the chat, Matthias Thulman says, let me post it here. Is the camera perspective on Algiz on purpose to hide his face? Either way, that's an awesome shot. Is it
No,
on purpose?
nope. It's just this is where I happened to find a spot to set up, and the scenery was really nice in the background. I didn't know it'd be that
It's
difficult
beautiful.
space, so but yeah, I
It's
don't have
it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. I was kind of worried whenever we were talking before the stream. I was like, oh man, I hope he's able to get service out there, and I hope this is able to work. It's working out beautifully, man.
nice.
People in the chat are absolutely enthralled with the background right now.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a really nice day out too. It's been very rainy lately too. In August, we've had the wettest August on record this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm glad we caught a break in the weather today, man. It's beautiful out.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's been raining out down this way a lot the last 2 days. I sent you some pictures of the flooding that was down in northwest Georgia that I had to work in
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
It's yeah, I had never seen the creeks that high down there yet. I was just like, holy shit, out of nowhere. But anyways, you talk a lot about in that video. You talked about fishing, about catching salmon and stuff. Do you want to tell us about that again? About
Yeah,
how plentiful they are?
yeah. So the way things work, I'll just kind of go over like the fish and game stuff up here in general because that's what this all pertains to. But yeah, things are so abundant here, and there's relatively low pressure in most areas on wildlife that things are just very much so. They have like sustenance programs for families, and I think the one thing you're referring to is what we call dip netting. And
Yes, yes, that's what you called it. Yes.
yeah, so up here there's a few spots you could do this at. There's a place in well, there's several places just south of here. I won't really go into the details because most people won't know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
describing exactly where these places are. But There's several places you could do this, and typically it's in July, and it runs for about a month. And what this is they change this every couple of years. The limit, they keep an eye on the fish populations, um, and they make adjustments to to make sure that those populations stay healthy. But basically, what you do is you get a family permit. It's free. You just have to have a fishing license. That's like $25, and you get this dip netting permit. And what you do is they sell these nets up here. They're these big ass nets that are like anywhere from like 3 to 5 feet in diameter.
Yeah.
Usually about a 10-foot pole. And what you would do is you would go to these areas where it's justified in doing this, where they allow it. And
Yeah.
you put on chest waders and you walk out into, whether it be on the beach or in a river, and you walk out there and you slide a net out there, and you just leave it sitting upwards on the bottom of the river, and you just sit there until you feel your net go thump 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 thump, and then you just drop it and pull it up the beach, and you'll get fish in there.
Man.
And the limit is like, I think it was like 35 fish per the household member, or the head of the household, and then 25 per additional household members. And that's just dip net. That's one way.
That is not your normal fishing, is it?
No, that's purely sustenance. That's just or subsistence fishing. That's not sport fishing. That's different. But a lot of people do it here, and they have various hunting programs like that too, where you can go out and get a ticket for shooting a moose pretty much any time of the year. You could go out and do. I do a lot of deer hunting. There's an area just south of here called the Prince William Sound. It's a coastal area, very beautiful place.
I might have showed some of that in the opening video. Because you were traveling in your boat and you had a couple of deer you'd harvested there.
Yeah, that was a Prince William Sound. That was a late season hunt. We went out and got 3 deer. That was last December, and that area you could get 5 deer per year there, 5 black-tailed deer per person. And the season starts like August 1st and runs to December 31st. So you have that large window of opportunity to go down and get a total of 5 deer. If you have the means of getting out there, that's the other thing. Doing that sort of stuff, a lot of logistics comes into play, but it's not impossible, especially with the way meat's getting, the prices of meat in the store. It makes it worth it, Like I could jump on a plane and go to Kodiak Island for like $300 and go get, a couple of deer that have, 60 pounds of boned out meat weight. And, that's going to equal, I'm not very good at math, so I'm not going to do it on the spot here. But I mean, you can imagine, man, it makes it worth your travels. It makes it worth the logistic costs to go out and do that kind of stuff here.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's dude. It sounds amazing up there. I'm here in Appalachia. I'll probably die here, but I swear, if there's any other place I would go, I would consider Montana, maybe Idaho or Alaska. And the way you describe Alaska just sounds like it's, the last, it is the last American frontier. You said there's less than 1 million people in the entire state?
Correct. Yeah, I think the last census count showed that there was like 800 some odd thousand people here. And the state's like twice the size of Texas, man.
Yeah, I know, it's huge.
So, I mean, there's just so much stuff up here to go out, and I mean, you could literally, if you wanted to, you could carve out your own village here, your own town.
Oh yeah.
There's still places in existence like that here.
Yeah, it's not like it is here in the lower 48, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's very different, man. It's very different.
There's a question in the chat here. Let me see. Vox Clementis, I'll post it on the screen. Do you know how to test fish and meat for poisons and toxic stuff? There must be some test kits. Do you have to worry about that much up in Alaska?
That's never been an issue here. Everything's so clean here that's just not an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I have heard of people doing that in places like in the Gulf or Southern California.
Yeah.
Fishing for particularly it's warm water fish that have this issue with like mercury content.
Yeah.
Like that. We just don't have those problems here. The worst.
Yeah, is there a lot of industry up there?
Yeah, there's some industry going on up here. There's primarily the oil fields and mining.
Yeah.
And the oil fields, they're not doing so great under Biden. He shut a lot of that stuff down, unfortunately. But I mean, as for other industry, there's fisheries. There's a lot of people work commercial fisheries. Um, running boats, whether it be like netting salmon or crabbing or shrimping, that sort of thing. Um, there's a lot of infrastructure type stuff going on because the state's still growing. There's a lot of like construction jobs, engineering, drafting, that sort of stuff. And then there's a lot of like stuff involving logistics up here, like whether it be
It's such a territory, such a huge amount of territory.
it is. And then there's jobs where like um, I had a family member that used to work at this one place that did surveying, and these people would go out to the absolute middle of nowhere. You'd have to jump on a little plane and go out there, and it was just mapping stuff. That's all it was. And
Wow.
that's one of those things that ties into it being like a frontier. Is we're still mapping the place, finding out where whose territories where these boundary lines are, this and that, and a lot of stuff like that. That's probably the most of what's going on. But there's a lot of other stuff here too, man.
Yeah.
Uh, there are cities here. There's primarily Anchorage and Fairbanks. Anchorage is our largest city. I think there's about 400,000 people there. Like roughly about half the state's population lives in this one city. And so, there's a lot of stuff that would go into like, um, what you might find in terms of work in the city, like, state jobs, doing administrative work, any of the government type jobs that are needed to keep keep society running,
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And then manufacturing too, like there's insulation manufacturers. There's we don't do too much logging here. We do get that down in southeast Alaska, which is
Yeah.
a ways away. But I mean, there is that too. There is like logging and stuff going on, which is nowadays done pretty sustainably. It's not just going out and clear
Yeah.
cutting whole forests. So, that's good to know. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff up here. You just gotta know where to look. There's definitely work up here, and they definitely pay well.
Oh yeah, I bet so. Going back to the fishing question that Vox had asked earlier, how you were talking about, how pristine things are up there. I mean, even here in southeast Tennessee, like the smaller rivers, like the Hiwassee, the Ocoee, the Piney River, Tellico River that I fish at, those fish are good. There's no industry upstream that I know of, at least. Most of these rivers are so small. There's not really much of anything up there that you got to worry about. But if you go over to the Tennessee River, there you will see signs posted that will say, only one fish should be consumed per month from this body of water, because unfortunately, there's a lot of industry on up the Tennessee River once you get around Knoxville, Tennessee, perhaps even above it. And I mean, there's even sign, and there's also a little warning sign below it. It says pregnant women should not consume fish from this body of water. I'm like,
God damn.
what the hell, man? This is depressing. It's really depressing, to be
Yeah, that's
honest.
terrible, man. That's
It's
terrible.
horrible.
Yeah, we had that big um, Exxon Valdez oil spill way back in the day.
Yeah, when was that? That was back in the '80s, maybe, or
Yeah,
the
I believe it was
'90s.
the 80s. I think it was the late 80s. That
Yeah.
happened in Prince William Sound, where I showed you where I was deer hunting, where I go and
Oh,
I do.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
there. It's as pristine as can be now. I mean, they did a good job cleaning that up. But I mean, you go out there now, there's just wildlife everywhere, man. Sea otters everywhere, eagles, porpoises, whales,
Yeah,
fish. I mean, it's just really, really, even after that, it's still, granted they cleaned it up, but even after something like that, it's still pristine as can be.
yeah. It's still sad. Ted Kaczynski was right about a lot of things, I believe.
Yeah.
Let me see what the chat's saying real quick. What's up, Berson Getterix? Uh, let's see, Cozy, how you doing? Cozy says, kick the Eskimos and non-whites out and create Hyperborea. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Hopper Perspective says, let's all move to Alaska. How you doing, Barbie Chan? Good to see you again. I hadn't heard from you in a while. Glad you can make it. Essay Chiste. I'm not sure how you. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that probably. Witchfinder Nielsen says paper mills and farm waste runoff. Yeah, that's a very true statement. Very true statement. Pat from Surviving by America says, "What's up, Project Algiz? Happy to see you on here." B1 says, "I live on the Hudson River. It's pretty much suicidal eating the fish from it, unfortunately." Yeah, it's probably how it is down here on the Tennessee River, I would imagine. Maybe not as bad, but probably close. But anyway, got a question for you real quick from the chat. Amara Arian, my good friend from up north, he asks, what's the biggest game or most dangerous game that you got up there, Algiz?
Well, so, honestly, big game hunting, I'm fairly new to it. I've only gone for deer, I'd say 4 or 5 times now. So, I mean, I do plan on getting into bigger stuff here. Right now it's moose season. I'd love to get a moose. That's one of the most I think it's the most dangerous animal up here, statistically speaking. I think a lot of people are surprised by that. The general brown bear, the grizzly bear, is the most dangerous because it's probably the most capable of doing the most damage. But a moose is very dangerous. If you get near a moose that has a calf near it, and you don't see the calf. Or
it's
rutting. It will.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, these are big animals, man. I believe they get upwards of 2,000 pounds, if I remember right. They might be a little heavier, but like the size of a Clydesdale horse. And
dude, in the video clip that I showed earlier of what you had sent me, those two moose, or do you call them meese? Is that the plural form of moose? Yeah. Hey, look at them moose up there. Well, dude, that had them 2 calves there, and they were just munching on that bush. Man, those are cute. But I bet they could be dangerous. I know my friend Diza Ray, he has talked before, and he said he is more worried about moose than he is actually, grizzly and things of that nature, brown bear, because they can be. Man, everybody in the chat's laughing at me for saying meese. Hey, man, it's like goose. The plural form of goose is geese. Just give me a break here. Oh, man. But, yeah, let's see. Is there any other questions at the moment? I don't see any at the moment. Oh, Pedo Von Lisp. Anti-moose propaganda. Rocky and Bullwinkle told me all I need to know. What's up, Martin? I think that's Martin, but anyways. So I figured we would ask you, what led you into our mode of thinking? What led you to become what? I hate to say, I don't like the term red pill, but what was your first red pill, I guess, for the sake of brevity here? What woke you up to a lot of things?
Well, that's been a very long process, man.
It is.
And,
I think it is for people.
Honestly, for the longest time, it was kind of off and on. Like, I would say, my background is I grew up in a fairly conservative household, believe it or not, being from Southern California. But, I grew up in a fairly conservative household.
Yeah.
Had some liberals on the other side of the family, but I never really paid much attention to the points they tried to make. To be honest, growing up, I kind of knew it was bullshit. Probably one of the earliest red pill moments I can recall was when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and somebody had mentioned, I'd overheard it at one of the family get-togethers, maybe, Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that. And they were talking about how the Disney movies were putting subliminal messages into movies. And I asked my mom, I'm like, well, what's a subliminal message? And she told me about it. And I asked my aunt, I'm like, well, what movies did you see this in? And she says, Lion King and Little Mermaid. I happen to have had the Lion King on VHS. So I went in and to my grandma's bedroom and popped it in the VCR and fast forwarded it to the part question. And I don't know, I'm sure you've seen the movie before. I'm sure pretty much everybody in the chat's seen the movie, but there's the part where Simba's like on this like mountain ledge and he kind of like lays down and like, I don't remember if it's like dust or like dandelion seeds or something fly off in the air and they're kind of scattered. But for a second, if you pause it, you can see that they spell out the words sex, the letters sex, and like as an
Holy
8 year
shit!
old boy,
Really?
yeah, as like a 7 or 8 year old boy, I saw that and I was like, well, this is fucked up. These people are fucking with my
That's
head, dude.
crazy.
So ever since
I never knew that. I
yeah,
never had heard that.
yeah, and like in the Little
This is
Mermaid,
the this is the cartoon version, right?
yep,
Like
yep,
now,
yeah,
I think
the
because
old school,
me and you, I think I'm just a couple of years older than you or so. But
yeah,
yeah, I
right,
can remember when The Lion King, the animated movie, came out. It was one of the few movies we actually had on VHS when I was a kid because we
yeah,
didn't have a lot of things like that, you know. But
yeah, it was sure
I
shit
didn't
in
know
there, man.
that. That's
Yeah, it was
fucked
in
up.
there. It really irritated me because I knew that they were trying to fuck with my head, you know. So
Yeah,
I started boycotting Disney, dude. Like my
hell yeah,
brothers to Disneyland, and I'd be like, "No, I'm just gonna stay home with grandma and grandpa." You know, drop me off there. Like I
yeah.
was that hard about it, man. Like I was that firm about
Damn, a
it.
young man of conviction.
Yeah, and so then growing up, in Southern California, I had a lot of Hispanic friends growing up, and um, we got to the point where in 2005 there was, when I was like 16 years old, there was a big push for like deporting a bunch of the illegals and shit, and I was on the fence about that for a while, and I talked to some of my Mexican friends, and I'd be like, it's kind of fucked up. They wanted to send people away, and I was surprised to find that a lot of them were like, well, actually, no, these people do need to go back. They're not here legally and all this and that. So that kind of changed my mind. And then right out of high school, I got a job working as a landscaper, and I was one of two white people that worked there, and
Yeah,
like one of I think 3 or 4 English speakers that worked there. And I just saw some of the disgusting behavior that these people displayed. Like we would be doing work by a school, like a junior high school, and these Mexican dudes would be like straight up checking out little girls and making sexual references.
references. Yeah,
Yeah, and like that really made me fucking sick to my stomach. And then I started looking into why are they like that in their culture, and it's a matter of fact that like parts of Mexico, like the age of consent is literally puberty. And so
really.
these people, yeah, so I started finding out that like these people, um they come here and they don't want to abide by our rules, they don't want to live by our culture, and they have this whole concept. I don't know if you've heard of Aztlan. it's
No, I
this
haven't. I
it's a
haven't.
concept where the Mexicans see that basically anywhere that Spain used to control in North America is rightfully Mexico's, and then they go a step further by trying to tie other like native cultures that are in the area to being like basically in the Aztec family of tribes like Mesoamericans, and they try to justify um, reclaiming the Reconquista of the southwestern United States. And so you have some people out there that have this sort of mentality about it, and yeah, in that they just didn't want to live by our rules that we had here. And that was one of the first moments that I really started getting kind of red pilled on that. And then after I moved up here, I got away from all that, so it didn't really bother me so much. And then
Yeah,
I got into just kind of chilling out, doing the stuff that young, early 20-year-olds do, and kind of partying and hanging out with people. And then I'd say around the time where, well, I would say probably what really kicked it off was getting up into my early 20s and getting a little more serious about life and trying to get more stable in the way I live,
yeah,
not
yeah,
partying much and stuff like that. That kind of made me slow down and rethink these sorts of things. And then of course 2016 rolls around, and everybody saw what happened there. I think
yeah,
that's a lot of people made that turn and got into
yeah.
that. That's when the red pill started really being dished out, and that's pretty much when I went back to taking a hard stance on race and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Man, your journey, it's dude, that's what a lot of people don't understand, I don't think. I think they don't understand, that life's a process. Even this sort of stuff is a process. I mean, I kind of got in some ways I was, I guess, sort of always red pilled. Like I always have been weary of authority. Growing up, I was raised conservative in a conservative family, but I always thought there was more to history than what we've been told about certain things. And then I remember in 2016, my old man had me watch The Greatest Story Never Told with him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was actually the one that introduced me to that, and I was like, oh shit! And
Oh, wow.
he we watched it over. I went up to his house, up to his trailer, uh, for about 2 or 3 nights, and we watched it. And when we finished it up finally, it was like Dad looked at me. He's like, "Well, what do you think about it?" And I was like, "Man, if all that's true, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of. It's really fucking convincing, you know." And
Oh,
after the and but during then, I was getting into the years of meth and everything, doing meth and trying to hide it from my family, not hiding it successfully at
right.
all because the shit, was killing me basically.
Yeah,
um,
that's terrible.
but 2018, yeah, 2018, I discovered this online culture, I guess you could say, when I moved down here to where I live currently. Found Vardovic Harness through laying perspective, and basically from that. But even looking back at the end, just a couple of years ago, your opinion changes on things sometimes. I still got the core beliefs, but I look at how different ways to. I think there's different ways to approach things. That,
Hmm.
but anyways, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent so much.
Oh, that's good.
When did you start making a lot of videos? By the way, Algiz.
So I started doing videos back in, I would say, I think the first one I made was about November of 2019.
Oh,
And
really? That's me and you started right at the same time, basically.
oh, right on.
Yeah, we really did. My first video on this platform was November the 4th, 2019. So it's about 3 years that we've been into this. That's crazy. I didn't know we were on the same timeline virtually here.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I didn't. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
But you've covered a lot of interesting topics. I hate to say it, I've missed out on like most of your videos before. But I've heard you've tore into Christian identity. I've heard
yeah,
you've tore into. I've even heard you've talked a bit about the biker gangs and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. You
Oh
want to
man,
talk about that? We could talk about that.
yeah. Let's talk about some biker gangs and outlaws and stuff
Yeah,
like that here for a little bit.
yeah. So yeah, where I grew up, that culture is pretty prominent, and my dad was in a motorcycle club growing up, and the club he was in was not like a criminal organization. They were what you would call a single piece patch club. So they're basically guys that get together and organize runs, which are like parties where other clubs show up. And, you make a little money that way, and you just organize events and you get together. They had all the other stuff going on, like monthly meetings, annual bashes, different parties, stuff like that. But a lot of the guys in the club had backgrounds. It's just that they didn't bring that stuff around uh,
Yeah,
the club as an
it was
organization.
more family oriented, wasn't it? Like you said.
Exactly, very tribal, very tribal, and
Yeah.
looking back, it's very lucky to have that. But one here's a little story I could talk about that kind of goes to show how they distance crime from the organization. Um, there is one of the prominent clubs down there is a club. I kind of hesitate to use the name of the clubs, but whatever, they're pretty popular, might as well. The Vagos MC Motorcycle Club, they're a really big club down there, criminal organization as far as like the law is concerned. And we had a couple of guys in our club that were selling methamphetamine. And from what I was told, this happened when I was very young. What my father told me was that they kicked these guys out of the club for selling, methamphetamine. And one of the things he did was he took out in a local newspaper classified section that they made an announcement.
Yeah.
Not classified proper, maybe that's not the actual section, but where you can make public announcements and declarations or whatever in your public newspaper. And they
Yeah.
put in that newspaper that these two individuals were no longer part of this club because they were, involved in things that we didn't approve of. And as of whatever date, they're no longer in the club. So I think it was a couple weeks later or so, the Vagos found out that these guys were selling methamphetamine on their turf, and they found out that they were affiliated with the club my father was in. So they
Damn.
called the club to their clubhouse. The club my father was in, they called them to the Vagos clubhouse, and they brought a copy of that newspaper with them. And when they sat them down and they were grilling them about, like, you guys have members selling crystal meth on our turf, they were trying to tax them for it or whatever it was, meaning that
They wanted a cut of the proceeds,
a
basically.
large cut of the proceeds, yeah, if not
Yeah.
all of it. And they were like, well, and they pulled out the newspaper and showed the president of the Fog, that chapter of the Fog, was like, hey, uh, we're no longer affiliated with these guys. We haven't been as of this date. We made we put this in the newspaper. Here it is. And my father said that the president, the president of that chapter, the Vagos, was just kind of looking at the paper like, oh, what? Like he didn't really know, because like people don't generally do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, they
So
did
he,
like that to distance themselves from that sort of stuff. But I mean, growing up, I mean, there were always, at some of the runs we would go to, there was definitely federal agents around. This is
really?
one thing I talk about from time to time when people get scared of feds. And it's like, well, just don't do anything illegal. Are you doing anything illegal? You're probably not going to get in trouble. They might try to talk you into doing something illegal, but as long as you don't, you're going to be fine. And I remember at least 2 times where the president of the club my father was in would come up to me and my brothers, and we're hanging out. We're just little kids, and he would go up to us, and he would point, and he'd get, hey kids, you see that guy over there? He'd be all loud about it. And he pointed him, and you'd look over and you'd see some guy in like a brand new vest with no patches on, wearing dark sunglasses, sitting against the wall with his arms crossed, just kind of apart, being a loner, nobody around. You'd be like, see that motherfucker over there? That guy's a fucking fed. And the guy would just like uncross his arms and deflate and just kind of just kind of walk away, kind of a thing. Covered. And we weren't
Exposing the cover.
Yeah, exactly. And he did that like twice that I remember, and that was pretty funny seeing that. But yeah, I mean, there was other clubs that would come around too, like the Hell's Angels. They were really really cool with us insofar as supporting us, in I say us, I was never a member, but the club, insofar as like supporting their endeavors in terms of like organizing parties and runs and stuff like that. Like, they were all the biggest supporters. So those guys were always around, and there was even a little back and forth with memberships between the club my father was in and the Hells Angels. So
That's interesting.
I grew up around those guys, and I've heard a lot of stories. One guy produced his own fully automatic submachine gun and used it on somebody.
Oh shit!
And
Wow.
yeah, I also heard a story. This is a story I talked about in one of my videos where there was one of the guys from the Hells Angels that we knew was at a party. This is a story that like my father told me from somebody he heard, where there was a couple of them hanging out at this bar at a big outdoor event, and some little chick comes up to one of these guys, one of the Hells Angels, and just stabs him in the chest. Really, really out of the blue kind of a thing, and the guy just dropped dead. And the guy that we heard the story from was standing right next to him and was just like in shock because the guy just dropped and was dead.
Holy
just
shit.
yeah, some little chick did it, dude. And the reason I brought that up in that video was a video talking about self-defense and expecting the unexpected.
Yeah.
That up, but yeah, stories like that, man. Kind of a crazy way to grow up.
It is. Oh yeah, man. I bet you got some wild stories, some other ones. Man, I remember a few weeks ago when you told me that idiom. I believe the word is idiom. That your father's friend had. What was it again about falling into a?
Yeah. Oh yeah, my buddy. He's my dad's friend. We would call him an uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about those idioms of you're talking about stuff people say down south and the funny shit they say. Yeah, this guy, I heard him say all kinds of stuff growing up, but one that I always remembered was he said he's talking about somebody one time, and he said that that motherfucker was so dumb that if he fell in a barrel of tits, he'd come out sucking his thumb.
Man, that's a great one. Oh man, I'm tickled today. That's hilarious. That's one I'm gonna have to steal that for future use at some point.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, that's a wild way to grow up. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it
Way.
could have been more wild. I mean, my father could.
Yeah, your father was in the periphery of everything, I guess you could say, wasn't he? Yeah,
Well,
he wasn't.
He was a legitimate member. He was a founding member of this club, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
But your club wasn't into the criminality aspect of everything.
correct,
And
correct.
it was just you were adjacent to like the Hell's Angels and some of these other the Vagos and some of
The
these other
Poggers and
groups.
Mongols and all the others. And here's another crazy story. This my folks were at this one get together in Norco, California, back in like 2006, 2007, something like that. And there was a bunch of people from the Hell's Angels that were there, and I believe it was a Mongol. I believe it's the Mongols showed up, and the Mongols and Hell's Angels are usually um, they're enemies. Like they are very much so against each other. And
Yeah.
my folks were at this bar, and they had just left, and one of the guys that used to be in the club my dad was in went and became a Hell's Angel, and he was there. And he was there with some of the guys that were in my dad's club, some of the older guys, and they're hanging out at the bar. And the Mongols come in and they start shooting the place up and like trying to shoot Hell's Angels. And
Damn.
my buddy, he said that he said, and I don't know, like if he was like physically like actually dodging shots from the gun, not like make it sound like the fucking Matrix or something, but the way it was described to me was the guy kept like just jumping out of the way when this one guy was trying to shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah, little pistol. I mean, crazy shit like that. And I remember my folks came home and told us about it. And then later that night, it was on the news how they apprehended a couple of the members from the Mongols Club, like several minutes from my house. And yeah, stuff like that, man. Like, but I do want to say though, man, like growing up with those folks, I mean, you do experience like true tribalism that most people don't get anymore in America. The closest thing to tribalism that most people get in America is like, my favorite football team, or,
Yeah. Some consumerist bullshit like that.
yeah, some stupid shit. Yeah. And it's something of no value, and so that's sad, but I do realize how fortunate I was to grow up in that structure, that framework,
Yeah.
understand it.
It's important,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Oh man. Let's see what else. We've been going for about an hour here. I don't want to keep you standing there too long, Algiz. But I figured next we would talk about your views on paganism,
Oh
on
yeah.
European polytheism and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been into this since about 2018. I came into it through Varg Vikernes, as you did.
Oh,
And
really? Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. There's another backstory to that I don't really want to talk about it here.
Oh, it's okay.
I've talked about it with a few other people. I'll tell you about it after the stream. But I had this very interesting experience that I didn't really understand at the time.
Yeah.
You could call it a dream, if you will, where I saw what I believed to be what I could only conclude was Odin. And at the time, I knew nothing of this stuff other than that Odin was like the chief of the Aesir. I didn't even know what the Aesir was at the time, and that he was Thor's father, and he was like a god of war. That was my extent of the knowledge. And I had this very crazy experience, and then I didn't think a whole lot of it. And at the end of it, I kind of reflected on it a little bit and thought about it, but then just kind of put it in the back of my mind. And then I think the way I stumbled across Varg was I found like one of those website pages that say like, top 10 famous people who have killed people or something like that. And
yeah. And that's how you found him?
I believe that's how I found him. Yeah. As I looked it up and I was like, oh, that guy. And then, I think I looked up his band or something like that on YouTube. And then, like a couple weeks later, it suggested a video of his, and I watched it, and then I got into that, and then I got into starting to understand the process of how Christianity came to Europe and how it spread, some of the mechanisms that were utilized in that endeavor, and then I found out that a lot of what I was told about that whole part of history was just wrong.
Yeah.
And that led me to have more of an open interest towards paganism, and I learned more about it through Varg, and then found Vigard Solheim and these guys.
Odell Sarvin.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. I really like.
Really good videos. He just kind of fell off the.
He's got a website now.
Oh yeah,
He gave up social media. He shut down his YouTube channel and everything. He's got a website now. It's just odellsarvin.com.
Oh, I'll check
and that's where all his videos are. He don't make as many videos as he used to, but he still makes some. He's made a lot of hunting and fishing videos.
Really?
Actually, over the past couple of years, picture videos of him doing some boar hunting, giving some advice on it and stuff. It's
Oh
really
wow.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. Check
I'll
that
send
out.
you a link to it on Telegram whenever we get done.
Right on.
Yeah, he's I love Mr. Solheim. I love his work. But
Nice.
yeah, what you were saying about this sort of spiritual experience you had seeing Odin and stuff.
Hmm.
I believe some people would look at that and say, oh, that's just crazy. Man, fuck that. I believe in stuff like that.
Well,
I
there's
believe,
definitely something to it, and the way I
yeah,
explain it too is like even if it was just a dream or some sort of crazy vision or whatever you might want to say, even if you take it to the most critical point, it's still manifested from deep in my mind somewhere, and the symbology of this whole thing, um like in the vision I had, it was like this vast field of like just this like pristine ripe looking wheat, and
yeah,
then it was just this like wagon made of like this monolithic piece of wood, like this um really weathered looking like driftwood chunk of wood. It was really strange, but then on the front of it was this man, this old man in a brimmed hat, a pointed brimmed hat, wearing it was some dark color. I don't recall if it was blue or whatever it was, but it was like a robe, and he had there was no horse drawing it, which was really bizarre. But the guy's a wanderer, and that's kind of
yeah,
what I kind of came to the conclusion of, was it was just wandering. Uh,
yeah.
there's symbology of wheat and all these other things that I didn't really understand until later on down the road. So that manifested from somewhere,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
it came from deep within, you
the
could
exact
say.
ancestral blood memory at the if it wasn't any kind of divine intervention or whatever, that has to be what it came from. So um yeah, I had that experience, and then I stumbled across Varg and Vigard, and um started reading a bit more and studying on it, and then I found the folks at the Neurona Society, and they're doing absolutely wonderful work in terms of putting the pieces back together and getting an actual formula in line that really just takes our religion that much further and gets it into it's just bringing it that much closer to life.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, the recent Eifenruner book has just been absolutely phenomenal, man.
Oh
So
really? I haven't read that or anything.
yeah, it's a pretty new book. It came out a couple months ago, and it's compiled from the Eddas, the sagas. I think, if I recall correctly, they use some like artifacts and different findings like that to kind of piece things together. But what they've done is they've gone through and they've researched things by subject, like the process of a bloat or a hoth, and they've gone
Yeah,
through. They found like things that were written about in the sagas, and they've compared them to other parts of literature, and they've worked it into where they've painted a really good picture on how this stuff works. And they're just doing absolute wonderful things to get our religion back to life. And it's it's just really good to see, man.
that is good to hear. Good to see.
Yeah.
Have you ever? Is there any of the what is it? The AFA, the Asatru Folk Assembly? Are they? Do they have a presence up there in Alaska? Because I've
Yeah,
heard a lot of good things about them before.
yeah. So I'm a member myself.
Oh, are you? Okay,
I
good.
used to be an apprentice folk builder. Um, I stepped down from that. There was some sort of drama that happened here with the pre-existing members that were here before I came in. They're around. There's several of them in this town I live in,
Oh,
and
really? Huh.
yeah, guys that I know and I've bloated with before, and they're doing their own thing. Which, I mean, I understand that, but there is a small presence here, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's grown much at all since I've stepped down from being an apprentice folk builder. But yeah, I stepped down. It wasn't really for me. Um,
Yeah.
just yeah, it wasn't really for me. So
I
um,
understand, man. I know I've heard a lot of people say good things about the AFA. They say it's really family oriented and stuff. But then I've also heard some people say that they had a similar experience that you did.
so I
I mean,
would
I'm not
say
trying to cast shade on anyone or anything. I know you're not either, but
right.
like how I look at paganism and such is you know, basically that I just whenever I experience nature, whenever I go fishing up in the mountains, I've never done any sort of type of bloat or any type of ritual like that. Although some people would criticize me for such things, you know, I I think it's open ended. It's an open ended question, I guess you could say. I think I'm interested in such things, but
Mhm.
that's one thing I've discovered, like since I've been doing this the last 2 or 3 years, is just there's so many different camps just within paganism of like how you're supposed to do this, how you're supposed to do that, I don't know, dude. It can be confusing sometimes.
Right. No, yeah, I hear you, and I think a lot of that comes from just the way that the process of reviving all this is gone. We had earlier works where some people have heard of Idrid Thorson. Uh, this is what's his first name, Mr. Flowers. I don't remember his first name. Um, anyways, Idrid Thorson's his pen name, and he wrote a bunch of works on the runes
Yeah.
and how to do rune chanting, Galder kind of stuff. But um, the unfortunate fact of that is he lifted a lot of this stuff from essentially Satanism. Like he used to be in the
Oh,
temple,
really?
which was involved with Michael Aquino and
Oh,
these guys.
shit.
Yeah, so like he was involved with Michael Aquino and all that stuff, and he applied things like his version of Galder. We now understand that Galder was more of like a singing of songs that had to do with our religiosity or spirituality, culture, all these different things. Um, and when he wrote this work, he wrote that to do Galder was simply to chant a rune over and over again. But that's identical to how Jews chant their stuff. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly where he lifted it from, but that seems to be the origin of that particular manner in which that was practiced. So I mean, we have people that stick with that, and unfortunately, that's one of the main things I've seen with um, the AFA that I wish they would stop pushing this man's work because it's wrong. It's not fact. It's not based on any kind of factual sources, and yet we're still taught to buy this man's books and follow this sort of practice. So we have I think that's where a lot of this comes from is people that were either trying to revive this and had the wrong idea, or maybe just introduce things for the sake of introducing things. And um
Unfortunately, I could see where there could be, a lot of incentive to introduce just bullshit, like how you mentioned that guy was just associated with Michael Aquino and everything. Yeah, Michael Aquino's story is pretty, he's involved in the CIA and things of that nature, Satanism, child molestation, pedophilia. It's just,
all
it's
kinds of
disgusting.
yeah. So I mean, you can understand my my my
Apprehension.
need to take that man's works as serious, especially
Yeah.
he was like you said, the CIA and stuff. He's involved with people that were involved in. If I remember right, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems as if one of his mentors was a man who was involved in like MK Ultra type stuff.
Yeah. I forget his name. I did a decent bit of reading on Michael Aquino last year, just in preparation for some stuff I had done on the Dutroux affair over there in Belgium. But
Yeah,
I'd have to go back and look at notes. I'd have to go back. I can't remember his name though, but I do remember a figure having that type of background. You could say, definitely.
mm-hmm. yeah, yeah. So I mean, that in the scene, and this is one of the unfortunate things with Wicca. You have
Yeah,
folks who basically make shit up. That's I dated
yeah,
a chick for a while, and she would share some of her books with me, and it was just like somebody
nonsense.
made shit up to make a book to sell for money. That's what it is. That's all it was. So
Yeah.
you do have stuff like that, but that's all the more reason I trust what the Neurona Society is doing, man. Is it's good hard research. So
Damn
um,
right. Excellent. You'll have to send me a link to some of their books. I'd like to get a hold of some of their books here in the future.
yeah, absolutely, man. I'll send you some links after the show.
Hell yeah. But yeah, man, going back to your spiritual experience, I've had a couple of things happen before, but the one this it's not on the level of yours, but I swear there's been two occasions in my life where I felt like I've been warned by a crow. I know that sounds out there, but I had a near death experience just 30 minutes after the second time that it happened. And what I mean by being warned by a crow was I was in a parking lot standing near a tree, and there was a crow in it just maybe 8, 10 foot away from me, just cawing and screaming, just really just. And there was no nest around. It didn't have young around. I've never heard a crow in my life. I've always had an admiration for crows, but yeah, man, there's been a couple occasions in my life where I think a crow was warning me of impending danger. I mean, that's why I've got the. I mean, I've even got the tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. I've even got the shitty tattoo. That was a drug tattoo. Someone owed me money, so I was like, "Hey, man, give me a tattoo and we'll be even," And they did a pretty bad job at it, so I need to get it redone. But that's what the logo of this channel is, But
Yeah.
that's the crow's always meant something to me, and the raven, the crow, that's associated with Odin, of course.
Yeah.
But anyways, we've been going for about an hour and 2 minutes. I've got to walk my dogs here shortly. Unfortunately, it's already almost dark down here. It's actually right at about dark. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, and anybody in the chat, if you have any questions that you want to ask Project Algiz, feel free to line them up right now. But what do you think our people's biggest problem is going forward, Project Algiz? I know that's a broad question, but what do you think?
The biggest problem that our people has is, in my opinion, is a severance from our roots and our identity. I think that's a big problem. You see this where people who still have these things, they're not in the same situation we are. And if you look at what we've been severed from, I think that a lot of the answers lie in that. I think that a lot of things like who we are, why should we be loyal to our people and our ancestors? Why should we place race as something that's real and should be preserved? Outside of our roots, this is just kind of like abstract ideas that are just ideals, almost like a political party. One thing I found by going into our old ways is that these become very matter of fact, and you see how ancient these are. I run into people who beg to differ. They say that there's no, like, we don't really have this severance. They say that coming from, like, say, a Christian perspective, and that's fine, whatever, if that's the way you feel. But the way I've come to see things, my personal view is like that's
the biggest problem.
It's probably the root of the biggest problem, is because if we had not only this identity, but if we had a system that allows us to place things like fertility, war, vigor, all these things into a realm of something holy to be venerated, we're probably gonna respect those things more as a people. I know folks like us do already, but talking about white people of European ancestry, be they in Europe or the diaspora, as a whole, that seems to be one of our biggest issues. It's just an absolute lack of identity. You get the wigger.
Be racinated.
Yeah, you get all these people that either don't care about race. You get the Zoomer with the mulatto perm trying to look black, and all these sort of things.
I know me and Miranda have been making. I've told her about the phenomena of the Zoomer perm here lately, and we were out eating dinner at a place a few days ago, and I was like, "Wow, check out that Zoomer perm over there. Look at the pristine condition. Look how clean and tight the sides are. How short they are. Look how magnificent." I know. So I know I've got a buddy that called it the broccoli haircut. It looks like a head of broccoli.
There you go.
Oh man. Let's see. Anybody got any questions for Project Algiz before we go? Anybody got any questions? Man, I wish I could throw a link in for your channels and stuff, but I know you've got your channel hidden right now for a couple of reasons.
Right now. Yeah.
I can't wait till you get back to it, though. Definitely.
Yeah, I have several projects I've been wanting to do. If some people aren't familiar with my work, I'm sure most people aren't. Honestly, my channel's pretty small, but aside from videos where I just talk, I do videos where I do instructionals on how to make like traditional instruments. I did one on how to make a one of my earliest videos was how to make a torque,
Oh yeah.
TORE. Yeah, it's a traditional Celtic piece of jewelry. It's basically just a twisted piece of bar that's shaped into like an arm ring or a bracelet. And I did a
Oh, I
really
bet it's
simple one.
beautiful.
Yeah, I
That's
did a really
awesome.
simple one out of a piece of copper. I'm actually in the process of making a sterling silver one right now for a votive offering to Njord. I'm going to do that out in Homer probably in 2 weeks or so. I'm going fishing down there, and there's a Seafarers Memorial down there on the Homer Spit. It's a strip of land that comes out into the bay, to Ketchimack Bay, and there's a monument there of a seafarer who's holding like a rope. He's just not any specific person, but it's like the 7 foot tall statue under this um like gazebo that's made out of, I don't know, stone and stucco, whatever. So it's a nice setup. But there's plaques on the wall. There's like bricks that have people's names when they were born and when
Yeah.
they went missing or died. And it's just a large memorial of people who were lost at sea. And it's like literally stones tossed from the beach. So I'm going to go down there and do a bloat to Njord. I'm going to offer up this sterling silver torque that I made and this copper Mjolnir pendant that I cut from a piece of copper and polished by hand. And there's a bunch of trays at that memorial where people put coins and stuff in,
Yeah.
which in its own pretty pagan when you think about it, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make a bloat and an offering there before I go out fishing and hunting on the sea. So
Oh man, that sounds awesome. God,
yeah,
it's so beautiful up there, man. I still
it
can't
is.
get over it.
It is, and there's just so many different climates too. Like here is more like I guess you would call it like a taiga forest. But if you go south, like less than 100 miles as the crow flies, you're in coastal rainforest, which is like where I
Yeah.
hunt deer and go fishing and all that.
Yeah.
Uh, if you go north like a couple 100 miles, you're in the tundra. It's just
Man, it's just oh man, there's so many different like biomes, I guess you could say.
there's even sand dunes up here. Like
Sand dunes? Holy shit, really?
yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
forget the name of the park, but if you look up Sand Dunes, Alaska online, you'll find like pictures of legit, like looks like the Sahara Desert. You
Damn,
know?
that's crazy. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got a couple of questions for you. Witchfinder Nielsen asks, "What was Algiz's best red pilling success? Have you ever red pilled anyone real
I
good,
try,
Algiz?"
I try, man. I try. I talk to my brothers and my folks, mainly my folks.
Yeah,
Uh, I would say probably them because I talk to them the most. My family's pretty tight knit.
that's
Uh,
good. That's
pretty
outstanding.
Yeah, pretty open and talking about different things, and I try red pilling them on the JQ all the time, and I think they're slowly coming around.
It might take a little while to break the conditioning, but you'll get there.
We realize some stuff, and I could openly make like Jew jokes with them, and it's all
Heck
balls and yeah, oh,
yeah. There
yeah.
you go. Let's see. Another question is Hoppa Perspective asks, should more of us move to Alaska? What do you
Yeah,
think?
that's something I wanted to talk about, and I kind of got away from that, but
Oh, go ahead and talk about it. Feel free.
so one thing, we're talking about stuff like building communities. Some people go as far as to say the ethno state, this and that. Um, one thing I see in that whole like set of thinking is people will argue over like which area is better than another. Um, I've come to the conclusion that the best area to do it is where people are going to do it. Like I don't care if somebody wants to do it, and there's people trying to do this in Maine, which is great. There's people trying to do it in Appalachia, that's great. Pacific Northwest, that's awesome. But I mean, I'll tell you from my personal experience, what I see here, the benefits here is, of course, the sustenance, the freedom. I've talked about this before with other people, but uh, gun rights here are insanely. Um, they're the shit here, man. Like there's a
Yeah.
store here called Three Bears, Alaska. They're like a local chain, like big box kind of store. And if you go to that store, you could buy your groceries, you could buy, your necessities, your toiletries, all this stuff. And they also have guns there. You can buy guns. And like, I've literally gone in there before and I purchased a pistol and a pizza. And
That's awesome.
I've gone in there before to get I don't know if you've seen them, but they have these, they're called bore sighters. They're like a laser you put at the end of a rifle. It projects a laser out. And with that laser, you could roughly sight in your scope without having to
Yeah.
fire around at a range.
Oh
And
wow. Yeah.
they offer that. So I went in there with my AR-15 once. I had a scope on it, and I had them sighted in for me. And when they were done, it was on a sling. I just threw it over my shoulder and pushed my cart around and went grocery shopping with an AR-15 on my back. Nobody
Wow,
said
that's remarkable.
nobody called.
Nobody's.
It's
Huh?
Alaska.
What did you say?
I said nobody cared. Nobody called the cops. It was Alaska. Nobody.
Yeah, that's
You can,
remarkable.
yeah, you
Hell
can wear
yeah.
it on your hip and go to grocery stores and shit. Nobody bats an eye. You
Damn,
know, so
that's
there's freedom up here. There's land. Land's not as cheap as you would see in other areas. That's one thing that gets people sometimes. But of course, you got to consider what you're getting into. In terms of what you're buying. I mean, you're moving to one of these super pristine places and the last frontier where there's an abundance of everything up here. So I mean, I would say if you're into the outdoors and you're willing to, um, work the land for food, you don't have to do that either. All the frameworks in place where you can just be the normie that shops at the store,
yeah.
and honestly, most people do that. But if you're the kind of person that wants to do the whole homesteading thing, whether that's off the grid or just kind of somewhat unplugged from the grid, it's a good place to do that. If you like doing all types of outdoor activities, including winter activities, if you like skiing or snow machining or anything like that, or you're gonna have a blast up here.
Oh man, I bet so. Oh
Yeah, and
man.
then the one thing that really gets me about it is I find this place to be very fertile ground for building a community of like-minded folkish heathens.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like a commune. I think people get the wrong idea when you talk about this stuff. They start to picture things like the Branch Davidian Church and Waco, Texas, and all that. But there are religious communities here, and they thrive, and nobody bothers them. There's various Russian Orthodox communities. There's a few of them south of here on the Kenai Peninsula. There's one that is very Russian, and I think something like 10 to 15%, if I remember right, when I read the statistics, I think it's 10 to 15% of the population, they don't even know how to speak English. They're just
Really? That's interesting. Wow.
yeah, and they've been here for a while. They're not all necessarily new migrants or nothing like that, but
Yeah.
they're a religious organization or religious community rather. And there's several of them like that here.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
I
That's
see
interesting. It's really interesting.
it is, and I see it as a very viable place to carve out a village or a community
Yeah.
where we can work the land. We could do when I say work the land, I mean like ranching, for
Yeah.
meat production, industrious stuff, and running commercial fisheries for money. There's a lot you could do here,
Yeah, it's a lot of potential. It's got
Yeah.
unlimited potential, it sounds like.
That was kind of the crux of the whole Project Algiz thing from the beginning. It was that sort of thing. It was is forming a community here and how to do it. So
Nice. I like it.
yeah, that's the biggest potential I see in it. But of course, not everybody's gonna be able to move here. It's a hell of a trip, logistically
Yeah.
and there's plenty of other places too. But I mean, for somebody who would want to move here, I mean, I say look into it. Look into if it's right for you. It's right for me, and
Hell yeah.
but I'm me, buddy.
Looks beautiful up there.
Yeah.
I've got another question real quick. Second Horizon asks, have you seen the Kenai River? I think that's how you pronounce it.
Kenai, yeah, the Kenai River. Yeah, I've been there many times. I fished there. Yeah, there's the Kenai. It says in parentheses green, and it's the Kenai River is green. It's like it's glacier runoff water is what it is. The river I'm right next to the Matanuska River right now. The Matanuska is a bit of a glacier runoff too, to an extent. The water's like blue green, and it's so dense you can hardly see through it. It's because of the silt from glacier runoffs, and the Kenai River is one of those rivers, and it actually confluences with the Russian River, which is like a clear water mountain runoff stream. And so there's a confluence where this super clear water meets this really dark green water.
Yeah.
It's cool looking, man. If you look up
I
Russian
bet it's beautiful.
Kenai River confluence, you'll see some pretty cool pictures.
That's outstanding. I'm scrolling through the chat. A lot of people have really enjoyed you coming on here,
I appreciate it.
Algiz. Um, Algiz, let me see. One more question here. Algiz, do you think non-whites can be Indo-European pagans? Is it only for our folk? I think it definitely is.
Yeah,
Of
it's only
course.
part folk, and they have their own um, they have their own spiritualities that they should pursue. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason for them to be a part of what we're doing. I mean, I go as far as to say, like, I'll take it this far. I'll say that if they have an interest in what we believe in, I guess that's cool. But you could LARP and say you're practicing it, but you never will fully practice it unless you are of our folk. It's just not going to be genuine. It's just going to.
Yeah. A
It's
genuine expression.
Yeah,
Blood matters, I think.
exactly. Like if you're interested in it, curious in it, you're reading about it, you appreciate it. That's cool. I appreciate that you appreciate our culture, but I
Yeah.
don't see like it's just not going to be a fully valid thing. I mean,
Yeah.
so
That's
no,
that's
it's
that's
up.
my opinions on it too, man. That's
Yeah,
exactly, I mean, the Shinto religion for the Japanese, I mean that there's aspects of it, that's interesting and stuff. But I mean, I would never, try to intrude on that because I mean, I have no Japanese blood or anything. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
definitely,
pretty hardline stance on that.
yeah.
Yeah, I do not like universalism or universalists at all.
No, no. It's part. I think that's a big part of the reason why we are in the state that we are in today.
Mm.
But anyways, I believe that's got all the questions. People have really enjoyed you coming on here, Project Algies. A
I
lot of
appreciate
people just it's all been positive feedback. I want to thank you. I know I asked you. I don't know. It was maybe a year ago or so. Well, maybe not that long ago,
that.
but it's been at least 6 or 7 months ago. I asked you about coming on, but I'm tickled to death that we finally got you on.
Yeah,
That I believe you win the award for the most beautiful background of anybody that's ever showed up on my stream. Uh, the Woodlander, his was pretty close because he was just out there in the woods. But no disrespect to the Woodlander, that mountain back there is it's absolutely beautiful, outstanding. Oh, you're gonna show? Oh, hell yeah, he's gonna show us. Everybody, look at the beauty there.
uh,
Observe the
way
pristine.
there. And
Oh man, that's beautiful. Wow, that's outstanding. That is absolutely great.
yeah, I love it, man. I'll never be able to move back to California or any of those other places.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't want to move back. Screw that.
Right.
That's beautiful. That's outstanding. But again, Algies, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have the door's always open. We'll have to do this again here soon.
Yeah,
Whenever you start producing stuff again, we'll you know, you show your videos off. We'll get you back on here because more people need to hear what you have to say. I believe absolutely,
yeah.
definitely.
I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. I figured we'd do a little Labor Day stream since I was off of work. And anyways, thanks again, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Bye bye.
Bye.